listeners and viewers, to another week of education, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back again this week to talk about a brand spanking new movie just released at the end of May. We are talking about the Canadian horror film In a Violent Nature, starring a bunch of people we don't know, directed by a guy we don't know. Kind of an indie film, kind of come out of nowhere. Got a lot of clout at festivals and shows and things like that, where it's coming out and it's like, wow, this movie takes a unique approach to the slasher film, which I will give it that. It is kind of a unique approach. Ramps up a little bit of gore, but it was one of those movies that like one person had a touch of the flu at the theater and got sick, and word got out about it. And so now marketing's marketing.
Yeah. They're puking at the theater and had to leave.
Yeah. So it's like, this is the movie they saw and they threw up. So this movie makes people vomit. Transitive property. It's like, that's how it works. And it rode and it's riding still. People are like, this is one of the better horror films of the year. There are a lot of things I liked about it. There are a lot of things I didn't, but that's why we're here. We're here today to talk about In a Violent Nature. So this was a shuffle movie that kind of ended up being a my pick movie because it was I wanted to watch it, and now we have.
Yes.
The plot of this movie is not there.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like you either, from the reviews I've seen, you either love this movie or you hate this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like in the middle because the gore made up some, for me, but it was just, it was slow.
It was a slow movie. It did take a unique approach. The approach of this movie was, let's take a slasher film where typically the slasher film is focused on our protagonists, our teens, or whoever. And then there's a killer lurking in the shadows, lurking in the woods that picks them off one at a time. What if we flipped it around and we had the camera on the mute, silent killer the entire time? Well, guess what? You know nothing about the characters. You care nothing about the characters.
Right.
You hardly ever see the characters because we're too busy. In what I'm saying right now, I've almost said the word video game about 4 times. This movie felt very video game-ish.
I can see that.
Because the you've got kind of a wide angle view. The killer's always in the middle. The camera's always the same distance away from the killer. And it's like this open world, you're the killer wandering around looking for things to kill. That's the vibe it really gave off.
Yeah.
There was gore, and the gore was fun. I don't think there was enough. For as many people were killed, not all of them were killed in real, like, wow, that was satisfying in a gore. It was like, oh, it's threw an axe at that guy. Or, oh, we didn't even see him rip that guy's arm off. We just saw his arm off. So there were opportunities to show more, but I'm going to chalk that up to budget.
Yeah.
I'm going to chalk that up into trying to make this movie look like a pretty artsy film instead of just a straight up like slasher. Matter of fact, I saw on Wikipedia it's been described as ambient slasher. And they're not wrong. The sound effects crew was the hardest working people in this movie. Mm-hmm. You get the sense that they have a microphone attached to every body part of this killer as you're hearing every footstep. You're hearing every tree branch he rustles by. And I'm like, either he's all mic'd up, which just kind of takes you out of it when you think that, why am I hearing all of the sounds of this killer? Or the Foley artists were hard at work. So I'm going to chalk it up to the Foley artists. Like I mentioned, plot's pretty much non-existent. The movie starts out with a static shot of a locket hanging on a piece of wood. Mm-hmm. And we have off-screen characters. It doesn't matter what their names are.
Yeah.
Because nobody in this movie, no character in this movie is worth remembering. But one of the characters, and they're talking about, basically there's your first round of exposition. That's another thing kind of annoyed me, is they told the story twice.
Yeah.
So right at the beginning of the movie, they're like, hey, blah, blah, blah. in this fire tower, Johnny, who's, the very vicious sounding name of our main character, Johnny is dead. The locket is there to keep his soul at bay. And Troy, I'm going to take it. Because it's pretty. It really wasn't even a pretty locket.
No.
But he's going to take it. Okay. So that scene felt like it took like 3 or 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, camera was not moving. It was just
like
focused.
At one point, I tapped the screen because I was watching this on my iPad as I was folding laundry. Right. And I tapped the screen because I'm like, is it glitching? Like, right. Is the sound just going?
Yeah,
and
did the
picture's
video freeze?
Not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was.
No,
I'm like, what's going on?
It was a static shot of a locket hanging. There's no breeze. It's just hanging. Probably, like I said, 2, 3, 4 minutes before Troy takes it. Camera pans back over, these guys couldn't have been very far away, but Johnny, who apparently was only buried in about 6 inches of dirt, rises from the ground. Like that, this locket was seriously keeping his soul at bay. So the killer arises. We see him. He is just this hulking mass of a person. No standard like your trademark look. How like Freddy has his glove and his sweater, and Michael Myers has the mask. Jason has his hockey bat. It's like none of that. Just this big corpse. And he's looking for his locket.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the movie.
Yeah.
Johnny looking for his locket.
Yeah, we go and we meet our first piece. Oh my goodness! Our first piece of gore, and it's this corpse of an animal.
Yeah, it's like a fox or something.
Yeah, it says fox, but I guess I didn't think it looked like a fox.
It's awful big.
I was thinking it was like a deer or something.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah, and he just kind of walks on past that, looks at the trap, and
stares at it for about 30 seconds. Like, it looked fine. That's not the kind of gore you want to see in a slasher movie. Is a rotted skeleton.
Like I can drive down the road and see a swelled up bloody deer.
Not hard.
So he heads up to this house where I'm assuming like this alcoholic man and his wife live, because he's just a jerk. And he just sounds, heads on in unnoticed, looks around, touches some things.
Again, the camera only follows Johnny.
Yeah.
That's important, because the characters who are having the conversation are kind of more interesting than what we're seeing, but we're following the killer as he's standing in a living room.
Yeah. And like he finds this locket, thinks it's his, looks at it. Nope, it's not. Walks over. Again, like, this is just, I don't know, it's just a very basic plot line. Like, it's not even a plot. Yeah. So, a homeowner sees him, freaks out, obviously, runs away. Johnny walks after him.
Because it's a slasher film.
Yeah.
The killers just walk, and eventually they'll catch up to their victim.
Yes. And which he did, because he also set a trap, or one of the traps that was set out for the animals. The guy gets it. Yeah,
it's like a bear trap kind of thing, and he steps in the bear trap, which there was a bear trap attached to the skeleton leg of whatever animal. So it's like, okay, obviously the the woods it's ripe with bear traps.
Yes,
and steps in it. So that honestly, that's the only reason Johnny caught up to him. Kind of puts a wrinkle in the whole, like, Jason and Michael Myers they'll catch you, but it's like, I don't think Johnny was going to catch this guy.
Yeah, no. Here's a car and decides, let's go check that car out.
Well, he kills the guy first.
Oh, yes, sorry.
We don't see it. We come, like, the filmmakers also did a thing where, because filming this in real time would have been even more excruciating. Yeah. So they'll cut, like, you've got Johnny walking, and then just a very quick cut to him still walking, but you could tell it's later in the day, to where it's like, well, I don't think the audience really wants to see him walk for 3 miles. And so they did that kind of thing, where you see him walk back, because killed the guy, left the scene, and then came back, and as he's walking by the scene, you see a blurred body laying
Yeah.
there. Because again, the focus is on Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
So anything in the peripherals, if it's not on the same plane as he is, it's out of focus.
Right.
So we see an out of focus body, and as he walks past it, we see a dismembered arm on top of like a rusted out vehicle. And that's it. We're like, oh, Johnny did that to the guy. We didn't see it. He did. But it's like, oh man, that's what you're going to start us with is an off-screen arm rip. Like, okay.
Yeah. So he comes up to this. It's now the nighttime, and he comes up to this group of friends sitting around a campfire, telling stories, and one of them is Johnny's story, and it's basically just like decades ago, Johnny, whom is developmentally delayed,
right,
was tricked into climbing the fire tower, just to get like it says, like a little bag of toys.
Yeah, he was teased a lot as a kid.
And someone was at the top gonna scare him. Well, he fell
from the fire tower.
Yeah. And so they put like a fire mask on him, so it looked accidental, like he was up there playing. And it was deemed as an accident. And so that's
what he and then he was buried. And then like a decade later, a bunch of murders happened. Yeah. And again, all this is not being shown in flashback. All of this is just being told to us by a bunch by these people sitting around a fire.
Yes.
And so this scene took forever.
Yeah.
Because before we get to the kids' story, we first have to, I guess, try to introduce us to these characters. They're all just dirtbags. They're mean to each other. They're rude and gross to each other. Like, they're just like, how are you guys all friends? All you do is sling insults at each other.
Yes.
Like, that's it. Like, everybody gangs up on one or two people. And that's just what it is. You've got a couple of them that are quasi-lesbian. No. That comes back. We get to these two ladies later. Yeah. There was like two girls at a market, and one was like, I'm going to go back and find those girls. It's just, it's nothing. We know nothing about these people. They are literally introduced to us. A matter of fact, at that time, we don't even know that one of these people is the one that took the locket.
No. Because we didn't even see who took the locket.
No, we saw a hand. Yeah. And so this is also where, like I mentioned earlier, it gets weird because they've already kind of introduced this locket's backstory right before they took it. And now they're sitting around the fire talking about the same thing. Like it's the story of Johnny. And it's there 100% just to make sense of why this hulking corpse is walking through the woods.
Yeah.
It's the only reason that they have introduced these characters is A, for people to kill, and B, well, we got to have a reason. And it's not even really a good reason because, like I said, a decade after he died, he's killing all these people, and like a park ranger puts him down and they bury him, but only this time they hang the locket over him. So his soul, and it's like, there's an awful lot of detail here for these out-of-towners to know. Like, how do you know all? Like, one kid knows all the details. This could and should have been the part of the movie where we side with the teens, and we're not. Like, these are like all the fratty college kids that you couldn't stand in college.
Yeah,
and now they're all here together. Like. You don't care. You don't know any of their names. None of them matter. They just, like I said, they're just cruel to each other. And they drink, they smoke, they do the things that they do in these movies. And then, but again, the camera's really only following Johnny.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, and this is arguably, this scene is the one that frustrated me the most because we are introduced to this campfire scene from Johnny as he walks up on it, stands on the edge of the woods and watches it. And then does nothing but listen to the story.
Yeah.
Like, this should have been carnage.
Yes.
This should have been Johnny just destroying this camp of kids that are trying to fight him in defense and can't do it.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like a 10-minute pause as literally Johnny is still standing on the edge of the woods listening. Because they do the stupid thing where one girl's like, all right, everybody gather up. Let's get a selfie. Yeah. Let's get a selfie.
If you've seen a girl take a selfie, like, you know she's going to look at it. Like, this girl didn't even look at him afterwards.
That's a good call. She takes one, like, forward facing. So, one, there's way too many people in that photo to get everybody in. Because even if you're on the most recent iPhone, even your forward-facing camera can't zoom out that much.
And that's just kind of what annoyed me, because I thought, like, they're going to take the selfie, and then she's going to look at it, they're going to see Johnny, and then that's when the panic is going to set in, like, he's going to come out. No, she didn't even look at it. No, and I'm just like...
Not until later.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's like, he was there.
Oh. Yeah. Like, no. We look at it immediately to be like, okay, was everyone looking? Did everyone fit in? All right. Good. Looks good. Like... No, and I get, like, I guess I don't get, like, no, whatever.
Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I don't know. So Aaron, the one that was telling the story and the one that everybody's just writing about, he's the one that I guess was flirting up these two girls at a gas station or whatever. So they're like, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to walk the 4 miles back to go see him? He wasn't, but he just, again, for some reason, walks out into the middle of the woods. And Johnny gets him. And this was really our first piece of cool gore, as Johnny just takes some kind of, basically a knife, and brings his arms around the tree, like has it in it, like, I guess in his mouth, and then just keeps pulling it and literally just slices the top of his head off, and it falls. And that was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, I got you there.
Yeah.
And then takes the top half and the bottom half, like takes the top of his head and the bottom half of his body and just drags him off, so that his body isn't found by anyone. So everyone thinks, oh, Aaron really did go. But he drags his body off, and then comes across a park ranger's office. I don't know why, but he did. Like I said, none of it matters, because there's no explanation, because all we're seeing is the killer. And so comes across this park ranger's office. Well, that's an opportunity for him to get to really, like, arm up. So he grabs this really old firefighter's mask that almost looks like a scuba diving mask, and like some dragging hooks and an axe. But again, all like very old, antique-y looking weaponry, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so then we get what might be probably the coolest scene in the movie.
Yes.
It's like the next day. Again, this is night. Johnny's still walking. We cut to next day. So again, he's been walking. Apparently he knew where these two women were. Well, no, he did. He was just walking through the woods, and the two women that they referenced from the gas station or whatever, they have names. It doesn't matter. Like, Aurora and Brody are these girls' names. It doesn't matter. But he comes across them. They're on the other side of the lake or whatever, the river, like on a dock. That's just it. Like, he's here. They're way on the other side of the water, and they're having an argument. One of them wants to swim. The other one wants to go do yoga. And they can't. Okay. And so the swimmer's like, well, I'm going to swim. And the yoga is going to say, I'm going to go do yoga. But meanwhile, Johnny just puts his weapons down and then just walks into the water. And apparently he's super heavy. So he's going to just sink to the bottom and walk across the bottom of, like, there's no buoyancy in a dead body, which you and I have seen dead animals along the road, like we mentioned earlier, very bloated, full of gas. Like, not Johnny. He's solid. He's filled with cement. But he just walks across the bottom of the water. Yoga is off doing yoga. Swimmer is swimming. And we just watch her swim.
Yeah.
We watch her swim for quite a while. Basically, we watch her swim for the amount of time it would take Johnny to walk across the bottom of the river. or
Yeah.
lake in real time.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3-4 minutes we're watching
Yeah.
her swim. It feels like
Yeah.
longer. And then
yeah, and then just like any horror movie where someone's swimming, like she just disappears.
yeah, she screams and gets pulled underwater.
Yeah.
And then
that's that.
we sit and wait while Johnny kills her underwater. We don't see it.
Yeah. Nope.
We just wait as he kills her underwater. And then a pretty eerie shot. It was in the end of the trailer, which I did like it in the trailer. I was hoping for more in the movie. She just does that like dead body float. Like comes back to the surface and just floats.
Yeah.
So her dead body can float, but Johnny's can't.
Right. It's a firefighter mask.
So must be real heavy. And then he just walks back on shore because he's got to go do yoga now.
Uh-huh. And he has his weapons now.
Not yet. Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
no,
he does.
He had the chain. He left the axe. He took the chain.
Yes, yes. I remember. He dropped that knife, whatever, axe thing. Yes. Okay, yes.
So he left the axe because he like put it into a log.
Yes.
So I'll give him this. He's sinking because of the chain.
Right, yeah. So he walks up to Yoga and like you can hear the stick crack and Aurora is this girl and she's like, thought you'd never make thinking it's the other girl. And
it's a really good thing Aaron didn't walk the 4 miles to go find these girls because clearly he didn't have a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the wrong team.
Yeah.
And I did like this scene.
I did. There were parts. I did. Don't get me wrong. I
just thought it was a very creative kill.
Very unrealistic.
Yes.
But very creative and odd on Aurora's character.
Yeah.
Because she does try to run from him, but she's doing yoga on the edge of it's not really a cliff because cliffs have a drop off. This movie, this doesn't really have a drop. She's basically on like the top of like a bluff.
Yeah.
To where there is an opportunity, like there's a slope coming down. It's steep, but it's a slope.
Yeah.
But she runs to the edge of that slope and then realizes imminent death is behind me, but I'll lose my grip. I'll lose my traction if I try to go downhill. So I'll wait.
Yeah. And so he's got his dragging hooks.
Yeah.
And he goes up, she screams, like you said, like goes to run, realizes like, I'm not going to make it down that. So she just stands there and is just like, basically just take me, kill me.
Yeah.
And he shoves something through her back, like stomach area. And you can't see it at that moment, but you can hear it.
Yeah. He punched through her.
Yes. And then is
very quickly because I've never punched a human in the back, but I think the force of impact would cause them to move forward. But either he punched so fast that he went clear through Aurora without her moving. Much like if you like yank a tablecloth out from underneath cookware, like dishes without them moving. He either punched her so fast that her body didn't lunge forward at all, or she's a lot heavier than she looks. One of the two.
Yeah. And like all you can see is the blood starting to come out of her mouth.
Right.
And she's obviously very much in shock. And then he pulls his arm out.
Yeah.
And now it's visual, like you can see everything. Goes around the front of her, pulls the hook through.
Yeah.
And you can like, I don't know, watching this, it's like, ugh.
Which turns her around.
Yeah. And then hooks her in the head.
Yeah.
And this is just like one huge fishing hook.
Right.
Like a huge metal fishing hook. And hooks it in her head. Yeah. And then just starts pulling. Well,
then, he spins her around.
Yeah.
Buries that in her skull. Spins her around again.
Yes.
And then, like you said, now he's reeling the chain in through the hole in her abdomen that's attached to her head. So then her head bends down and we see like her spine snap.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool effect.
It is. It is.
And then continues pulling, but we only see from the hole.
Yeah.
Like the camera's on the hole as he's pulling and pulling and pulling. And eventually, what does he pull through this hole?
Her head.
As she's still standing on her feet.
Yeah.
Clearly dead.
Yeah.
Which means your muscles give. Which means you probably collapse. Aurora's really good at yoga, though.
She is.
So good that even her dead body will stay standing on her feet to allow her literally to turn into like the letter P.
Yeah. Yeah. And when he pulled the head through, that was just like enough for me. Like that was just like, so like you said, like unrealistic. Like
it's just super it was cartoony.
Yes. Had he like pulled it down to where her spine snapped and just ended it there.
Yeah.
That would have been fine. Like that would have been great. But I'm just like, okay, now we're gonna fold her.
Yeah, she's literally folded in half.
Yeah.
It apparently, if you're strong enough, you can give someone scoliosis.
Yeah.
Because that's Aurora was working hard at yoga to keep a nice core and good posture, and he gave her scoliosis.
Yeah.
But yeah, he literally pulled her to where her head came through her abdomen.
Uh-huh.
But she stood the whole time. Good for you.
Yeah. Then he finally does knock her down, and he rips the chain out, and just
she's just like it's gross. She's just kind of deflated and laying there, and
then he just kicks her down.
Just kicks her down what she was afraid to run down, and then he just walks off. Like,
yeah, that was that.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought he was looking for his locket, but apparently he had time for an excursion.
Yeah. A couple of them.
Yeah. So, 4 miles back at the people that we're supposed to care about, there's an argument over car keys because somebody wants to go, and I think somebody might be drunk or whatever. So they chuck the car keys into the woods, and one of them has like a toy car on the keychain. Yeah. Well, they land right at Johnny's feet. Like, of course they do.
What are the odds?
Johnny happened to be right there. So they land at Johnny's feet. He picks up, and this is the adolescence, like really the childlike nature of him.
Yes.
He picks it up, sees the toy, because again, he's into toys, takes off the fire helmet, sits at the base of the tree, and is just playing with this toy car. It was an effort to show us the front side, because we had not seen the front of Johnny yet. Shows us the front side. As two of the guys drive off on like a four-wheeler. So Johnny kills two guys. Doesn't like pretty boringly actually. Like
I can't even remember how he killed them.
Well, he's coming around the house. He what did he do? He did something to the car and then went running around the back of the house. This is where they had the gun and shot him. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So because the one was kind of an interesting kid. So yeah. So this is where like when he's sitting there, one of them said something to like enrage him. They're like something about like you're just obsessed with like your dead dad or something like that.
Yeah.
And that like he squeezes the car, breaks it, gets up, takes off after them.
Right.
And sets like the hook or something in the car to have the horn going off.
That's what it was.
So then that's when these two come out. The one has a gun and he's like
he shoots it and it puts him down. But again, we know it's not gonna last.
Right. And the guy's like, my dad killed him 10 years ago.
Not yet. No? No, that was the park ranger later at the ranger station. Oh, this is he kills one guy with an axe and chases the other one into the woods, and that's when he falls, he picks up that rock and just smashes it. I mean, pretty boring, like really from what we've just watched.
Yes.
Like I said, he throws an axe at one kid, kills him, and then crushes the other one's skull. But they don't cut away, so I guess it's pretty cool effects. And then the guys with the ATV come back. They see him, and this is where Johnny goes after them, but they just ride off.
Yes.
To the ranger station. At the ranger station, these two guys, Colt and Chris are their names. It doesn't matter. One's a guy, one's a girl. They find the body of the guy who had his face cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny shows up because they magically are talking about Johnny right then.
Yeah.
And so, oh no, they found the body. Then they went and got the ranger. They come back at night. That's when Johnny shows up.
Yes.
So they're talking about Johnny, and then one of them's like, "Oh, he's right there!" Like magically. Thankfully, they were talking about him. They Chris, the girl Chris, she has the locket on. So Johnny's like, heat-seeking missile. This is where the ranger shoots him and he falls dead again. And this is where he's like, my daddy did it 10 years ago.
Yes.
We just need to bury him. Follow me as I walk up next to this body that I know is not dead to see if he's dead. It's like, what an idiot. So he grabs the...
They were going to wrap his legs up.
That's right. Here's the chain. Go wrap his legs up.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not touching him. So he's like, all right, on 3, switch. So 1, 2, 3, Johnny grabs the gun.
Yeah.
Fights, gets in a wrestling match. Chris and Colt leave.
Yeah, the smart thing to do.
Yeah, and Johnny goes ahead and has his way with the park ranger.
Because he grabbed his back and paralyzed him.
Yes,
like he just snapped his spine. Didn't break the skin though. Johnny's clean.
Yeah,
but yeah. So now this would suck. He's alive but paralyzed.
Yes,
as Johnny drags him to a very slow death scene.
And honestly, the actor I felt like was very good at acting here, because when you're watching it, like, you can see like everything is super still, but his eyes are just like moving around in panic and like looking around and just like he knows that this is not okay. What's going to happen? And we watch a log splitter splitting some logs.
Because Johnny's got to make sure it works.
Yeah, and then we put the park ranger's body on.
Put his arm in there first.
Yeah.
And again, he's paralyzed, so really can't feel it. You know? So he watches his arm get cut off. And I'll admit, it looked realistic enough.
Yeah, it did.
It wasn't just like a slice. It was, you could see the pressure. You could see his arm kind of buckle under the pressure. And then it cuts it off. Mm-hmm. And then he drags his upper body into it and does the same thing with his head. Like, cuts him off at the neck, his head falls off. That's the end of the park ranger. Again, I felt like this scene took like 8 minutes.
It much longer. Like, this is like real-time stuff, I guess. Like,
and a very old log splitter, because log splitters today probably move a little faster than this.
Yes.
Like, you could cut logs on your own faster than this.
So, flash forward, Colt is going to distract Johnny, trap him, but Johnny gets him with the axe first.
Yeah, that was like very quick scene.
Yeah.
Like, why would you stand right behind the guy you're trying to... Because Colt's an idiot.
So then our last scene girl, she drops the locket and heads out.
Yeah, she like leaves it hanging on a gas can.
Yeah. And
then runs into the woods.
She gets hurt, but that doesn't slow her down really any. She's still going away. And from here on out, this is where the movie could have just ended.
Yes. The next 10 minutes felt like something's about to happen.
Yes.
And then it never did.
No. And it just took on on.
It was disappointing.
She gets into this. She's made it out of the woods. She gets into this pickup truck that picks her up.
Right.
And they're literally just driving.
Yeah, just some woman.
Yeah. Driving. The lady's talking about how bears are in the woods, and her brother was a game warden and he survived it, and she's seen some of the things that come out of those woods, and you're lucky you just hurt your leg, and blah blah blah. Oh my goodness.
Right.
And then the girl passes out for a little bit due to some blood loss, so the lady's like, let's pull over and make you a tourniquet. Well, the girl now is like, I don't know what to do. Go, go, go. Staring off into the woods.
Right.
And you're the flies are coming. So you think Johnny's gonna pop up. Johnny's gonna pop up. Like, I'm expecting like a jump scare here. Like, he's gonna come out of the back of the truck. And he's gonna
something. Step in the
walk
road.
up, and she's gonna be in shock, and her body can't tell the lady. So then he's gonna kill her. Like, I'm like, something's gonna happen, and then they tourniquet her, and it goes back to the woods.
Yeah, they cut back to that gas can.
Yeah, and the locket's gone, and that's that.
The only thing I think that they could say to explain this last part is the actress that played the woman that picked her up played a character in the second Friday the 13th movie. Not even like the surviving character, just a character. And so that's the only thing I can think of is, hey, we got Lauren Marie Taylor from Friday the 13th Part 2 to be in our movie. She probably wasn't up to a whole lot, honestly. So it's like, let's give her some screen time. Kudos to her. Pay the woman. That's great. But like I said, this movie's only 94 minutes long. You cut this scene out, and you're under 90 minutes. Like, it just it felt like you're waiting for that other shoe to drop, and then the credits roll, and I couldn't help but be disappointed by how it ended. Especially when they made such an effort the entire movie to keep the camera on Johnny. Mm-hmm. And then once we're down to one survivor with Chris, then we cut to her. Now we're back to actually what a slasher movie is. Where's the killer? When's the killer going to strike next? We've been watching the killer strike the entire movie. Whether we want to do or not, that's what we're following. Then the last 10 minutes, we cut to the final girl, and there's no final scare.
No.
So,
nothing.
Like, the one character, even though we know Johnny there's no interesting characters in this movie. Johnny is definitely not an interesting character. We're just that's the one we were saddled with.
Yeah.
We don't even get a finishing story on him. Like,
no.
That's the one person you wanted us to be around, and now...
Yeah, like, we don't even get to see him go back into the ground. We don't get to see him...
Did he take that locket and then go back to the cabin the kids were in and just, like, kick his feet up? Like, like, we don't know.
Yeah.
It's just... So we really don't know what happened to anybody. Chris survived. Johnny is somewhere. The end. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's...
Let's grade it. What are you grading it?
Okay, so I feel like I was kind of indifferent about this movie. Like, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I'm going to give it, like, a C because it was just average.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a C-. I think it didn't do anything new.
No.
If you've watched enough horror movies, there's a horror movie that does this right. It's called Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. And it's a movie that is made to feel like a documentary. Mm-hmm. But it takes place in a universe where Freddy, Michael, Jason, all these people are real. And Leslie Vernon is just a dude that wants to be the next great monster.
Yeah.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
And so there's a documentary crew that's with him as he's talking about the importance of cardio. It's like all of these horror movie they become kind of tropes and almost jokes about how the killer's always walking while everyone's running. Like this movie kind of flips that, and it's like we're interviewing the killer. Mm-hmm. Like, we're interviewing him. So he's just like, oh, cardio, how he spends so much time in hyperbaric chambers, and like he studies the masters. Like he's got like a mentor that's a former serial killer. And it's a lot of fun. The movie's a lot of fun because it really takes us where we're with him as he's like, okay, he's picked out his final girl. So now I have to be in spots where she can see me and be afraid. And I have to, it's a lot of fun. And then it does this thing in the third act that switches it, and just the way it's just much, much better done. If you're going to make a movie following a serial killer or following a mass murderer around, that's the movie. This one's not. So when they're like, oh, they reinvented the slasher film. No, you didn't. You didn't.
Yeah, no.
You made it more boring because there was no plot and we know nothing about anyone. That movie followed around a killer, and you were cheering for him because he's kind of our hero too.
Yeah.
It's like that's the guy. Like, he's got charisma. He's just a dude. Like, he's like, I put the mask on, now I'm the killer. I take it off, I could just walk. Like, I'm fine. Nobody knows who I am. I'm gonna go as far as to say it's a great movie. It's one of my brother. Like, I introduced it to my brother when he was younger, and like, it's one of his favorite scary movies, just because he's like, that movie is so good because he knows, he's seen the nightmares, the Fridays, the Halloweens. He's like, yeah, that movie, like, it took everything that's funny about those, like, unintentionally funny about those,
right,
and like tied it in. So, but no, that's a solid one. This one's a C- for me. It just didn't nail it. Like you had some good kill scenes and some fun, but even like not enough of them,
right?
And it just too much walking around in between. And which character in this movie fits your role? Like, which one would you be in?
I'm gonna say Aurora, because honestly, if I were faced with a serial killer, I would not, like, I'm not cat mouse chasing it.
Right.
Go ahead and just kill me. Like, I don't want to just live in fear of what's going to come up behind me. So just go ahead and kill me. Like, take me.
That's fair. Man.
I don't want to be wrapped up like her.
No, that would be tough. That would be tough.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to fight it. Like, and I've always been like that. Like, if someone's going to walk into my house, I guess I do have a gun, so I'll put up a little bit of a fight. But it's like, if I wake up and someone's at the end of my bed, go ahead and just kill me here.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I'm already resting.
Like, you want me to just go back to sleep? Like, yeah.
Because I have to pick one, I would say probably Colt.
Okay.
Only because he was the last guy surviving.
Yeah.
Like, he knew he had enough wits to himself to just get out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
And his comeuppance was when he was trying to do the right thing by distracting Johnny so Chris could escape. I could see myself. I don't think I'd be stupid enough to do it at close range.
Yeah.
But I would say probably Colt. If I had to identify with any character in this movie, probably Colt. But honestly, none of them. Like I would not have hung out with people like this.
Yeah, no.
I would not have gone into a park ranger profession. I wouldn't have picked up a hitchhiker on the road. Like, it's like,
no, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Maybe maybe the swimmer girl. I like to swim.
I do too. I love being in a pool.
But I don't know. I don't think I would swim in a lake by myself.
No, not by myself. Especially, like, not if I don't know what's in it.
Right. So it's like, I don't, even that's a stretch. So, but yeah, so that's our movie. That's In a Violent Nature. At least it wasn't Skinamarink.
Yeah.
All right. So it is
Scratch
off time. Let me go pull up the list to announce what our next movie will be.
Woo-hoo.
Do you have movies picked for your next one in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I keep a running list.
You've mentioned that.
Yeah. So, which sometimes if I come across something on TikTok, then I will pick that instead.
That's fair.
But yeah.
We've watched 31 scratch-off movies already.
Holy cow.
Yeah. We've got 69 left. And next week, our topic will be another one I haven't seen. The Tenant is the name of it. The Tenant from 1979. A quiet and inconspicuous man rents an apartment in France where the previous tenant committed suicide and begins to suspect his landlord and neighbors are trying to subtly change him into the last tenant so that he too will kill himself. The Tenant is the name of this one. I believe it is directed by Roman Polanski, who is a great director, but a terrible human being. Let me look that up real quick. Come on, IMDb.
Yes.
Is it? Yeah, he's a terrible, terrible human being. But Roman Polanski also directed, I think he did Rosemary's Baby, which we watched. This will have a similar feel to that, I'm sure. Polanski's movies kind of have a feel to them. Great director. Don't get me wrong there. I'm not taking anything away from him as a director. There's a reason why he's won an Oscar and he's been nominated for like 200 awards over his career. But
he directed The Pianist.
Yeah. So The Tenant from 1976, streaming wise, you can find this a little bit everywhere. This one, Hoopla, you can stream it for free. Canopy, you can stream it for free. You can rent it, of course, everywhere you'd rent your movies. I think it's 2 hours long. I think it might be French. Let me look at the languages here. Come on, IMDb. And yeah, French and English. So it'll be a subtitle one, but maybe not all subtitles. But no, this would be a new watch for me. I've not seen this one. Not seen The Tenant, but that'll be what we watch for next week. You got anything before we go?
Nope, I don't.
Well, social media-wise, you guys can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We do have a Letterboxd account if you'd like to give us a follow. It hasn't been touched in a few weeks. So if you want to see what things used to look like in our world, go for it. Because that's a nice little time capsule of things. We're getting some traction on YouTube, to be honest. I'm not saying we're pulling in hundreds of thousands of views each time, but it's steady. We're up to 51 subscribers now on YouTube. And content wise, like The Grudge had 56 views, Hatchet with 20, The Witch with 31, Blair Witch 63, Cat People from, again, I'm talking 95. So our highest viewed video is I Spit on Your Grave with 129, Resurrection with 115, When Evil Lurks with 114. But on the other end of the spectrum, we've got a bunch with 4 and 5, but really that's, movies like Dust Devil, Thinner. Still kind of disappointed that Scream 2 with Ella still only has 4 views. Yeah. But, whatever. So none of that stuff ultimately matters. But it's still, we're doing okay. Like I think we got our loyal followers that tune in. And so I think with this being a newer movie, it might get a little bit of traction as well, but we'll see what happens next week when we cover The Tenant. So for another episode of Deducation, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.